It's TK Friday, and today on The Joy of Editing, I'll be doing a full edit of this beautiful image called Nature's Symphony. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you for joining me on yet another TK Friday. Today's image comes to us by Art David. It was shot in Los Glaciers in Argentina. A beautiful image that I called Nature's Symphony. I think it's an apt title for this beautiful scene. By the way, if you have an image you'd like me to edit on a TK Friday, just go to the description below this video, click on Show More, and at the very bottom you're going to find Contact Me, a link. Just click on that link and contact me, and we can discuss editing your image on a TK Friday. If you'd like to try to edit this image for yourself, it's a great way of learning. In the description below this video, click on Show More, and you will find links for the image as well as the PDF notes to help you along the way of the editing process. And that's a great way of honing your skills when using the TK8 plugin for Photoshop. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK8 plugin for Photoshop, you can click on my affiliate link found in the description below this video. Just click on that link. It'll take you to the TK web store where you can purchase the TK8 plugin for Photoshop along with training videos. And if you use my promo code DK15, you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. And when you do that, you're supporting The Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And for that, I truly thank you. Well, let's just dive right into this full edit. Now, I always like to start out my images in Lightroom with basic adjustments. But I did my typical linear profile, hit auto, made some minor adjustments, brought the image in pretty flat, and here we are. And when you download your image, it's going to look just like this. Now, the first thing we want to do is click this button to select the sky. You'll also find that button on the CX panel, but I'll be working from the combo panel. I always like to keep my CX panel open for my actions. So I'm going to click the sky selection button, and Photoshop will select our sky. And then we want to save that out as a channel. So click this button right here and give it a name. I'm just going to call mine Sky and click OK. And you'll notice it's saved down here in channels. Now we need to invert that selection to get the foreground. So right below that Save Channel button, we can click this button here to invert our selection, and then click the Save button again, and now we'll call this one Foreground, and we'll click OK. And now we have a sky and we have a foreground, and now we can get started. I want to start out with the foreground first. Now you can note that I have a selection. See the selection indicator around the multi-mask beta panel, as well as you can see the marching ants here. So I'm going to click on My Channels. So you have your choice if you have an active selection to click on active selection. And you'll recall I saved that as foreground. So I could click on either one of these. I'll just click on foreground. And there's my foreground selection. Now the next thing I want to do is click on the mask calculator and click on X for an intersection. And basically what I want to do is put a midtones 3 only in the foreground section. And that's what we're going to do. And now right here, see where it says foreground, we can click X because we've already have the foreground selected. And now we can click on the luminosity mask button and simply click on midtones 3. The midtones 3 will protect shadows and highlights from clipping when I use the color grading tool to make the adjustment. And now we can click equal to make the calculation. And now you can see I only have that midtones 3 on the foreground. And now we're going to output that to a color grading tool. And don't forget, make sure you have the new multi-mask beta. Make sure you get that latest update because the old color grading tool doesn't work in the latest version of Photoshop. You'll need the multi-mask beta version. If you're using an older version of Photoshop, the latest version, as far as I know at this point, is 24.6.0. Do not put the multi-mask beta in an older version because it will not work in an older version, but it will work in version 24.6.0 and going forward. You'll need it for that, but not in the older versions. All right, now let's do our balance and contrast adjustment. And I love this adjustment, and I use it on every edit. Take a flat image into Photoshop and then run this balance and contrast. I find it's a really great way of starting out your edit, and I really love the results I get. I'm going to start out with midtones, so I'll click on midtones, and I'm just going to take this brightness slider and drag it to the right until I hit like 35. I'm just looking at my notes. And I love this new HSB where we can actually see everything that we're doing here. And then I'm going to go to shadows, and I'm going to drag the brightness slider to the left till I hit like 21 from my notes. There's my shadows, and already it's looking good, right? And now let's click on highlights. And I'm just going to open those up. I'm going to drag it to the right. And, I just experiment. I go and see what looks good, and then I back it off. But I found like 33 was perfect. Here's the before, and here's the after. Now I'm going to do some color grading as well on the midtones. So let's click on the midtones block. And what I did was just warmed it up a little bit. Now, this is different on the beta than it was on the old color grading tool. You don't click and drag. You actually use your cursor and then find a point and then just left click with your mouse and it finds that point. If you want the same color grade that I have on my notes, now here's my notes, and you can see that gray circle meaning midtones, okay? If it was black in the center, it would have been shadows, or white, it would have been highlights. But you can clearly see it's midtones. Just jot this number down. And then in Photoshop, just, highlight this and type in that number, which I've already done, and then just click this button right here, and it'll apply that exact color grade. So that's a little tip for you if you want to follow along with exactly what I'm doing. But you could choose your own color grade. That's totally up to you. Or don't do a color grade at all. Okay, so that's the first step. Now the second step. Right now the color grading tool is hiding the multi-mask panel, so click this X. Nothing will change here. Let's go back to My Channels, and this time we're going to choose Sky. We're going to do another mask calculation, so click the mask calculator button. Another intersection, so X to intersect. Now we can X out of the sky selection. We already have that. We can click on the luminosity mask button, and again, midtones 3 to protect shadows and highlights from clipping and losing details. And now we can click equal to make that calculation, and now we can see that midtone 3 up in the sky. And now what we do is output to a color grading tool, and I'm not going to use shadows because nothing will change there, okay, because I don't have any real deep shadows up here. But I'm going to go right to midtones, click on midtones, and I'm going to darken up the midtones. So I'm going to drag this slider to the left. Now, when you drag a slider, you don't see anything happen to you. Release your mouse click, and then you'll see a change. But I ended up going over here to like a -48 to really darken up that sky. Not really. I mean, it darkens it up somewhat. Looks a lot better. And now I'm going to click on the highlight block, and I'm going to pull that to the left as well, just to darken some of the highlights a little bit. And I'm going to drag this one over to a -32 right here. Okay, so we can see here's the before and here's the after. So now we can really see those clouds. So that's a nice start. But I do want to do some color grading of the midtones. So let's click on midtones. And I basically cooled them off a little bit. And remember, this cursor here, wherever you put this cursor, like if I put it way out here, it'll move that over there or over here. So you can move it around, and it's really accurate, and it's really like pinpoint accuracy. You can just move it a little bit like that, but you don't click and drag. You just give it a click. Now, I'm going to highlight this. I'll type in my number for my notes. And that number is 424B60, and click this button, and it sets my color grade. So now you can see it adds a little bit of a blue color grade to that sky, which I think looks really nice. And we're off to a good start. And if you're wondering what I mean by balance and contrast, balance meaning I want to balance out the sky in the foreground so everything looks like it should in the image. In other words, the sky's not too light or too dark. The foreground's not too light or dark. Everything is balanced. And then I add some contrast just to bring some pop and life and a little bit of saturation to the image, because whenever you add contrast, you will increase saturation as well. By the way, I have a new before after action that you can download. It'll be in the description below this video. There'll be a link for it. And basically what it does, when you click before, it goes to the background layer, and then when you click before and after again, it goes back to the top layer. Tony fixed my before after action button for me, so I want to thank him for that. And I'm sharing it with all of you guys out there and gals. And now on to step 4. And basically what I want to do here is burn down the shadows in the water just to bring some life to this beautiful rushing water. And to do that, what I'm going to do is X out of the color grading tool. Again, nothing changes here. Click on the curves adjustment layer button, and that adds a curves adjustment layer. I put a black mask on there just to hide what I'm going to do, because I'm going to put this in a multiply blend mode. I'll click the multiply button to put that in that multiply blend mode to darken everything up. And I want to base my mask off of the image just the way it is now. That's why I put the black mask on there. I'll use a luminosity mask, so I'll click on this luminosity mask button. And I'm looking for dark tones, so here's darks 1. Let me click on darks 1. There's darks 1. Here's darks 2. And I like darks 2 the way it's targeting. The lighter areas will be the areas getting the burning, which will be the shadow areas. And I'm going to output this to a black mask, white brush, painting through a selection. You can see my selection indicator here now. And I want my brush opacity to be at 30%. Now, if you like working with flow, work with flow, whatever you like, but I like working with opacity. Now, every time I paint down here over shadow areas, and then if I lift my brush and paint again, they'll darken up even more. They'll get incrementally more darkened. So I'm just looking for areas that I want to darken down. And it's going to target them really nicely because I have that selection protecting me to only hit the shadow areas. And you can make some areas darker than other areas. It's really up to you. This is where you really have that artistic license to really, do what you want to the image and really bring it out the way you want to bring it out. And take your time here. I'm doing a video and sometimes I have to be fast and I can't really take the time to really study things out, but you get the idea what I'm doing here. When you're at home doing this, take your time again and make it really sing. This is really the fun part where you're actually, altering the image and bringing it to the vision that you like. So here's my before and here's the after, but you see what that does there? And I think that really helps. So that was step 4. Now on to step 5. Now, before I hit step 5, I ended up pausing the video and did a little bit more burning. So here's the before and here's the after. So it looks a little bit better, I think. I felt I needed to bring some more darkness out in there because we need the darkness to play against the light, which is very important. Okay, step 5. I'm going to do some dodging in the water to bring out some of the highlights in the water. So let's click on the luminosity mask button. And there's lights 1. Here's lights 2. And lights 2, see these light areas in here? That's what I want to target. Okay, so I want to dodge those up and bring some more life to this water. This time I'll output to a dodge tool. Now there's 2 sides. The left side gives you 50% gray. The right side gives you a blank pixel layer. Whichever one you want. I like the left side with the 50% gray layer. And now we can dodge. Now I'm still going to use 30% opacity. By the way, a shortcut to get to 30% is type 3 in your keyboard, and that'll change you to 30% opacity. All right, I'm dodging through a selection, as you can see, so it's only going to target the light areas. So I can come here and lighten up these light areas. So just dodge away. I went ahead and sped the video up so it doesn't get too long here. But as you can see, I'm lifting my brush at times and painting again, and that incrementally gives it more of a lightening effect. And again, I want to stress, take your time and really study it and see what you want to lighten or what you want to leave alone. Now let's take a look at the before. I'm just going to click this eye on the dodge layer. Here's the before and here's the after. Now I recommend that you go a little bit stronger on your dodging and your burning because you can always pull back on the opacity to fine tune. So what I like to do is take the opacity the whole way off and then just build it up slowly and stop at a point where I think it looks good. And I think right there, let's try this, 75%. Here's the before and here's the after. But you see that? Now we have that light and dark. That water looks more impressive. The next step is to darken the clouds up in the sky, so I'll burn those. Now I could use a curves adjustment layer in the multiply blend mode, or I could use the burn tool in the TK8 plugin. And I think I'll use the burn tool in the TK8 plugin. The cool thing in Photoshop is we have a lot of choices of doing similar things. There's different ways we can go about things. I like to show you different techniques and methods, and then you choose the ones that you like the best. Now remember, I have a sky channel. I'm going to come up here to my channels and load up my sky channel. Click on my mask calculator button. Click X to intersect because I want to protect the other areas of the image. And then I'm going to X out of the sky because I already have that selection. Click on the luminosity mask button. And let's try darks 1. See, darks 1, these lighter gray areas will be the areas that will be adjusted. The real dark areas will not get any adjustments. So that's going to be good, a darks 1. Now we have to click equal. And now we can see we only have that sky selected. And this time I will output to a burn tool. I'm using the 50% gray side. You can use the blank pixel side, whichever you want. So I'm going to click right here on the left side. And I get this warning, no pixels are more than 50% selected. The selection edges will not be visible. Not a problem. Just click OK. And now you can see I do have a selection. And again, I'm going to use 30% opacity, and I'm going to get a bigger brush here and just start painting away. Now, some areas I may make darker and some areas lighter. It really depends. Again, it's your artistic vision here. I went ahead and sped the video up, but anyway, every time you lift your brush and then apply more paint, it'll darken that area, and just keep looking for those shadows you want to bring out. I went ahead and paused the video and just worked on this a little bit more, and here is my before and here is my after. The next thing I want to do is do some freehand burning in the water, and that is just where I don't use any masks whatsoever and I take an artistic license. Now right now I have a selection here, so I need to deselect this by clicking this button right here on the combo panel. I'll be using a burn tool right from the combo panel. Right here, it has two sides again. Left side 50% gray, right side blank pixel layer, so I'm going to use the left side. I'll just click on that. But this time I want to use an opacity of only 10% because this will be a very aggressive burn. And you got to be careful here, so you need a very low opacity on your brush. You can type 1 on your keyboard. That's a shortcut to get 10% on your brush. And as you can see, I have the 50% gray layer in a soft light blend mode. No selection. This is freehand burning. And now I'm just looking for areas I want to darken, like right in here where this water is churning around. And again, this is where you can just really pick and choose what you want to burn. If you want to, and if you lift your brush and start to paint again, you'll add more of the effect. At this point, I went ahead and sped up the video, but you can see I am lifting and painting over areas. But again, I'm just looking for darker areas, and this will really add more interest, and it'll really make that water look really turbulent and a lot more exciting. I went ahead and paused the video and just added a little bit more burning to areas that I thought needed it. Now here is the before and now the after, but that looks so much better. You can really see the turbulence in the water. And don't forget about your opacity. If you went too strong, you can always pull it back. Now this image looks like we're moving into fall, and you can see some beautiful colors in here, but I think we can bring those out, and I'm going to use a paint contrast action to do that. It's painting contrast, but I'll be adding more color with that, and I'll show you what I mean. But first off, let's find the paint contrast button. We'll click on that, and up comes a color picker. And what I want to do is I'm going to start with this red type color here, which is actually, I think, orange. So I'm just going to click right here, and there's that color. So I want to add more saturation, so I would have to move to the right, but I also want to lighten it up. So I think I'm going to go right up to about here to lighten it up and click OK. And now at 20% opacity, now I'll vary this because I'll be using different colors, and I'll vary this between maybe 20% up to maybe 100% for different areas. It really depends. So I'll start to paint over this right here. Now I'm going to lift my brush and hit that one more time there. I'll paint across here, lift my brush, paint it again here, up in here a little bit, over in here. And even on some of this right in here, I can hit some of these orangey tones. Right like that. And I could even come over in here and paint in some of these back in here, some of this color in here as well, and maybe over here a little bit. So here's the before, and here is the after. Now I'm going to get a different tone. Now what you can do is click this green brush. When you do, the color picker will come up again, and now we can sample another color like right here. See this lighter area here? And what I want to do is lighten that up as well, so I'll click right here and click OK. Now I'm still at 20% opacity. I'll make my brush smaller, and I'll just paint across here like this. Now here I think I can be a little more aggressive. I'm lifting several times, so let me go up to say like 50% and see if that's too strong. And no, it's not. And I'll just start painting over some of these areas like this. And you'll see me going back to that green brush. I'm going to speed the video up so you don't have to watch me do this whole thing in real time because it'll take a long time. Okay, then now the video is sped up and you can see me painting. I look like I'm painting like a madman. You see I'm changing my brush color here. And remember, I'm lightening as well as adding more saturation. When you move that circle to the right, you'll add more saturation. If you move it to the left, you'll add less saturation. If you pull it up more, you'll make it lighter. If you pull it down, you'll make it darker. So again, I'm sampling colors. I'm just looking for areas that I can lighten up. And I think that'll bring out a lot of really nice nuances of color in here. Even on these rocks over here, I'm sampling this color and I'm going to paint on these rocks, bring up some of that color and lighten them up a little bit. And over here on this rock, some more greenish tones in here. And again, there you go. And again, I went ahead and paused the video and painted a little bit more. But remember, to change that color, what you want to do is click on the green brush and your color picker comes up, and then you can sample a color. And remember, when you pull it to the right, you'll add more saturation. Pull down, you'll darken. Pull up, you'll lighten. So if I had this color right here and I wanted to lighten it and add more saturation, I would like click right here and then click OK. But that's how that works. But anyway, let's check it out. Here is the before and here is the after. But see, it just adds some nice extra color in there, and it really kind of helps this image out, I think, in a nice way. And don't forget, you have your opacity. If it's too strong, you can pull it off and then just build it up slowly and just add the amount you need. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it up at 100%. I think I like it for now. We can always go back and change this later. For the next step, I'm still thinking about color. And you see this rock right here. I went ahead and zoomed into it, but it has some warm tone here. And I'd like to add that same tone over the entire rock area here. I'm going to use an action called Add Color. So we'll click on Add Color. And I'm going to select this color right here. A color picker comes up. I'm going to click right here. Now I want to add more saturation, so I got to move this. So here's the point. So if I come over right around in here and click, I can always change this later. Click OK. And now with 100% opacity, and notice we have a certain color of paint swatch here, which is set up for us in the action here. And I'm going to hand paint this, so I have a really soft edge brush, and I'm just going to start painting. I got to make sure I stay on the rocks, so be careful here, but just paint on the rocks. I went ahead and sped the video up, and I'm continuing to paint on these rocks. But like I said, be careful you don't go over the edge, because there's no mask protecting you here. Be careful. I went ahead and zoomed back out. Here is the before. Now just look at the rocks. Here's the before, and here is the after. Now you could double click this icon, and the color picker comes up, and you can come here and change this by clicking anywhere you want. Or you could drag it around, and you can see it changing. You see how it changes? And you can find the right tone. Once you have that painted in there, you can find the right tone. And I think maybe right about there. And click OK. So here is the before and here's the after. And I think that helps. And again, you could take this opacity and pull this back if you feel the effect is too strong. But I'm going to leave it up at 100%. Usually when I get to some point in the edit, I feel that my midtones need to lighten up, especially with all the dodging and burning and adding contrast. So a lot of times the midtones will need lightened up. And so what I'm going to do is click on the luminosity mask button, grab midtones 1. Now you have midtones 1, midtones 2, and midtones 3. They're all midtones, but midtones 1 is the less aggressive of the midtones, and it's the one I like to use most of the time. And so what I'll do is I'll put this to a curves adjustment layer and change it to the screen blend mode to lighten. And watch the image when I click this. See how the midtones just lighten up? Now that's too strong, so I'm going to take this opacity off and build it up slowly and stop at the point where I think I like it. And I like it right here. So here's the before and here's the after. That's at 67%, but you see how that nicely lifts up those midtones a little bit. The next step still involves color, and this time I'm going to use a saturation vibrance mask. So I'm going to click this button right here. What I want to do is pull up on the weaker colors. So that's going to be a vibrance mask. So I'll click on Vibrance 1. Now I want you to notice I have my histogram above my multi-mask beta panel here. And what I want to do is try to move this edge here as close to the left as I can. And so here's midtones 2, midtones 3, and that's at the edge, but I think I want to hit it one more time. Here's midtones 4. And that's targeting the weaker color, okay? And now I'm going to output that to a hue saturation adjustment layer, and that mask is only going to let me bring up the weaker colors. And so I'll take the saturation adjustment and start to drag it to the right, and see how it's lifting up the weaker colors. And I'm going to take it over to I think right around here, like 51, 52%, somewhere in there. Here is the before, and here is the after, bringing up all that color. And then what I'll do is click on this drop-down menu, and I'm going to go to yellows. And I think I'm going to pull back on the yellow saturation a little bit to maybe right about here, like -18. And then I think I can bring out some more blue in that sky up there. So I'm going to click on blues and just slightly bring up the blue to maybe somewhere right about here at 12. So here is my before and here is my after. Now I want to show you something. If I didn't have this mask here, I'm going to click on this X and watch the image. Here it is without that mask. Look at all that color in there. But you see what that mask is protecting? It's only targeting the lower saturated colors. And now I think I have too much like pinkish tone up here on this mountain up here. So I'm going to take that off. And all I'm going to do is make sure you have the mask selected. Grab your black brush at 100% opacity. Just type your 0 key. And we can just hand paint on here with a nice soft edge brush. And I'm just going to paint off any of that saturation that got oversaturated. Make my brush a little smaller and come up in here. I went ahead and sped up the video, but just be careful here because you're not painting with any masking, but be careful and you'll get it. And that's not hard to do. And there, I think it's good. Let's do before and after. Here is the before. And here is the after. And I like all the extra color. And I like the color that came out in the water down here. I think that really looks nice. Again, before and after. And now another action, the color loom action. Click on that. That stands for color luminosity. And what it is, it's a black and white adjustment layer in the luminosity blend mode that just affects the brightness ranges of the actual colors themselves. And I like to hit each and every one of these colors. And the way I do this is I'll start with reds and I'll move the reds to the left to darken reds, move it to the right. And as soon as it gets to a place where I like it, I will stop. So I think right here at like 39. Now I'm going to go to yellows. And now for the yellow, I want to lighten up the yellows to say right about here. And now for the greens, we can go to the right, we can go to the left, and I think I'm going to go to right here, darken them up a little bit right there, and now we'll go to cyan, and I think I'll pull my cyans back a little bit to right there at 50, and now my blues, I'm going to darken my blues, so I'm going to come back to like right here, -12, and now on the magenta, I'm going to lighten up the magentas just a little wee bit to right about here. Let's take a look at the before. Here's the before, and here is the after. So quite an improvement. And by the way this action is set up, it's a black and white adjustment layer in the luminosity blend mode. But Tony Kuiper has programmed this so that when you start out, you won't see any change on your image. So that gives you a good starting point to know how you want to adjust these luminosity values of the different color hues. 2 more quick and easy steps and we are done. I'm going to use a basic vignette on this image, so I'm just going to click on the first action, vignette. That's a basic vignette. I accept the Gaussian blur radius for what it is and click OK. Now it defaults at 50%. But what I want to do is double click right here, which opens up the layer style properties. And then I'm going to use blend diff. And what I want to do is I'm going to hold my Option or Alt key down and click on the right side of this triangle. And I'm going to drag it over to somewhere right about here. And then I'm going to take this shadow and move it right over to about here. So that's going to protect my deepest shadows from blocking up. And I'll click OK. So here is the before and here is the after. And then what I think I'll do is pull this opacity back a little bit. And I think to maybe right about here. Here is the before. And now here is the after. Okay, and I like it. And it doesn't look really like it's a vignette that's sticking out like a sore thumb. So again, the before and the after. One final step, and that's to lighten up the midtones. I'm going to come back up and click on the luminosity mask button. And again, I'm going to use a midtones 1. Output it to a curves adjustment layer, put it in the screen blend mode, and take this opacity the whole way off and build it up slowly. I don't want much to right here at 30%. Here is the before, and here is the after. Now let's see where we've come from. We started out looking like this, and don't forget you can download that before after action. I'll leave it in the description below this video. It's been updated, so now when I click before, you see before it goes down to the background layer. And then when I click it again, you'll notice it goes to the top layer. And there's the after, but quite a change, right? Before and after. Well, there it is, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon, and then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get a notification. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing!